Hey guys, this is Richard Cook here, GameStarrArts, and firstly, again, just want to thank you guys for watching my ZBrush Basics videos, and for all those who have subscribed to the channel and hoping to get a little learning out of it. Thanks for all that. It's really a big thing, even though, like I said in my previous thank you video, it's kind of just a smudge on the entirety of YouTube as a user base and all that. And it's still humbling to me because again, it shows people want to come in and learn about the programs and stuff like that. And of course, since I did it for free, I got a lot of thank yous for that, but much appreciated from you guys for all watching the videos too, and hopefully you'll keep checking back. I'll have some new videos up soon, hopefully, and you guys will learn a lot more from that as well. Today I actually wanted to talk a little bit about, for aspiring designers and developers, I want to talk a little bit about getting into the industry. It's usually a big inquiry of people who are first starting out and they're kind of wondering what the right path is to go. Really, there is no right or wrong way to get to a certain point within the industry. It kind of just depends on your situation and where you're at. But there are a lot of things you can do to really improve your chances. And there's definitely not one way to get to a place, like I said. So you can get to success in this industry through a multitude of ways, but to improve your chances, there are a lot of things you can do and a lot of things you can avoid, and hopefully it'll work out for you in the end. But firstly, one of the things I wanted to cover was the glamorous life of the industry, or what is perceived to be the glamorous life of the industry. Really, you have to go into it. If you're just coming in, a lot of people are going to have the illusion that you're designing video games. It's amazing. It's something that everybody thinks is this amazing, glamorous thing. You know, you're sitting at a computer or something like Hugh Jackman in Swordfish or something, where he's all dancing around the computer while he's hacking and programming this stuff, and it's nothing like that. It's absolutely nothing like that. A lot of people get this misconception about it because of things like commercials for game schools and stuff like that, like the tighten up the graphics on level 3 from back in the 90s. Imagine how many kids went to an art school thinking that's what it was going to be like. You know, you go in and you expect it to be like that, you're probably going to come out disappointed. Or you may be completely realize that it's something different, but that you still want to pursue it. But nonetheless, to set the record straight on the industry, what you're probably going to end up doing is spending hours and hours and hours in front of a computer in a darkly lit room or a darkly lit office, a bunch of cubicles and stuff everywhere. And you're going to be spending hours upon hours staring at a computer screen and navigating through whatever program you're using, if you're using like Maya or something, and you're just zooming around and you're constantly examining this object or something that you created or that you're creating, and you're constantly examining it, and you're constantly correcting errors and moving vertices around and stuff like that. But it's tedious. It's very tedious, and some people, they kind of see it as a redundant thing. But I mean, of course, it's not. There is a means to an end for everything we do, hopefully. And but anybody, like I've had watch me develop something. If I tell one of my friends, "Oh, come check out this model I'm working on," they'll sit there for 5 minutes and watch me work, and then they'll just be instantly bored. So a lot of people, when they're coming into the industry, they need to understand right away that there's nothing glamorous about it. You have to know exactly what you're getting into. It's the same way for programming. You're sitting there and you're examining lines of code and making sure that everything is set up in the right way. And it's tedious. It's very tedious, but it's what we love to do. And if you actually love what you're doing, then you won't really feel like it's work. Because I personally, when I'm doing that same stuff, I'm just sitting there, computer screen and everything, just staring at it and working through my stuff. It's exciting to me because I'm getting to watch something evolve into something even greater, and taking it from its minimalist point to the greatest finish that I can. And it's exciting for me personally. So that's one thing that people need to get out of their heads real fast, is that it's a glamorous industry, and just keep that in mind whenever you're getting in here and trying to figure out exactly what you're going to do for your career. Now the second thing is choosing your discipline, in the same relation to that. Now, choosing your discipline is going to be something that's going to define what you do for the entirety of your career. You have to, just like knowing what to get into in general in the industry, you have to know what to get into for yourself, like what is going to make you the happiest. I'm an artist, and as an artist, I kind of knew what I was getting into when I first came in. I kind of didn't, but I found out real quickly. And again, like I said, it's exciting for me because I get to see things evolve and stuff like that. But some people might not really see it the same way I do. Some people might come in and they want to see something evolve from a more base standard or something like that. They want to see like the intricacies of stuff and how it all fits together. And that's where somebody might like programming or something, because the programmers and the tools programmers and stuff like that, they're programming the underlying backbone, the world of this whole atmosphere that the artists are creating. Obviously, we all need each other, and we wouldn't be able to work well without each other on a game project. But the programmers are kind of going to see the what I like to say, like the matrix or whatever. You see the numbers and stuff trickling down and stuff like that. Maybe not quite that drastic, but it's in the same way when a programmer is looking at a game or something like that somebody else is playing, they're probably seeing things that the person playing it isn't seeing. They're seeing that how the physics or something like that is working because of relation to a line of code or something like that. So in the same way, artists also see it kind of that way too. We see like the wireframes and stuff like that. And of course we see like the shaders and the properties of the shaders and all that stuff that's on the objects in the game. But again, choosing your discipline is important because you have to know you're going to be happy with that particular discipline. And some people like to go into it hoping for the kind of the surface value of it, the face value of some of the stuff, like being a character artist or something like that. It's difficult to be a character artist because you have to keep in mind that a lot of people want to be character artists, and if you're not going in there knowing like the absolute most you can know, you're probably not going to get much of a second look either, which it kind of sucks because the saturation of artists out there is pretty huge, and so you're going to be facing a lot of competition for jobs and stuff like that. But with that aside, like I said, once you choose your discipline, you have to know everything about that discipline. You have to start learning, and you never stop learning. An artist or a programmer or anybody never stops learning. I mean, any kind of developer will never stop learning whenever they're constantly working and creating something that's constantly changing, which is what games are. The games industry is constantly changing, and we always have to adapt to new trends and programs and stuff. I mean, ZBrush, when ZBrush came along, it was a complete change to the way games and characters were developed, because you're taking something that took a long, arduous process before, and you're simplifying it, but you're simplifying it in a way to where you're able to take it to a complex level now. You couldn't really get those kinds of intricate details like sculpted into a character in the past. You kind of had to fake them through clever texturing and stuff like that, but now it's like it's pure art. It's all going into something that you're it's like virtually sculpting. You're sculpting in these intricate details and it takes everything to a higher level of visual clarity now. But as far as goes, like what ZBrush did for the industry, it is a revelation. It was amazing. So, like I said, introducing new technologies like that all the time, you have to adapt. When I went to school in 2003, ZBrush was still in its infancy, and so a lot of people didn't know how to use it. They definitely didn't teach it in schools at that point. At least not at the school I went to, which I went to Full Sail in Winter Park, Florida. But at that time, they didn't teach the program there. It wasn't a big enough part of the industry for them to teach. But I think about 3 years after I left school is when ZBrush started to become like a standard, and you had to know it. Nobody's going to give you a second look now, at least in games, and probably even movies. Nobody's really going to give you a second look unless you know that kind of stuff, you know that program. But when you're also getting into the industry and choosing your discipline, you have to keep in mind that you have to know everything about in relation to that. What I mean by that is in character art, you have to know anatomical studies. It helps tremendously to know things like the skeletal structures of humans and animals, and the anatomical structure and everything, the muscles, all that stuff. And it also helps to know things like, in the same way the anatomical study helps to know like mechanics and stuff like that. Engineering, because sometimes you might want to create, like you might be tasked with creating a giant walking robot, something that doesn't exist or something like that in the real realm here, and you have to take that out of your imagination. You have to take that out of the concept artist's imagination, whoever's doing the concept art for it, and you have to create it and make it believable. And the way to do that is by understanding things like anatomical studies and mechanical and engineering and stuff like that. In the same way, an environment artist has to know architecture and stuff like that. Architecture and how buildings are created and all that stuff. It's something that you probably absolutely need in order to create feasible, believable art. And so that's something that you have to also keep in mind when you're choosing your discipline, is whenever you're doing that stuff, you have to know exactly what you're getting into. You have to know what you're going to be studying. You have to know what to study outside of your studies to improve your work and your art, essentially, if that makes sense. So, and the third thing I wanted to go over real quickly too was something I already said, was the programs, Now again, the industry is constantly evolving, and with the whole thing with ZBrush and everything, that was probably one of the single biggest leaps forward in the way we develop characters and art and all that stuff in the games. And in the same way, you're going to continue to see more programs pop up that are either going to make something easier or going to make something a little more practical to do. Like, for instance, here's just a small example, UVing. When you're doing UV mapping on a character, it's kind of one of those things that a lot of artists dread, because it's kind of a side process, and it's something that you kind of don't want to do, but you have to do it. And you have to be able to do it well, otherwise you're going to end up with artifacts and texture stretching and seams and all that fun stuff. But and of course, all that stuff breaks your model. It makes it look like crap. You don't want that, obviously. So you have to know UV mapping well. You have to know how to do it properly, even though it's a side process. And so nowadays you've started to see programs like one I use is Roadkill. Now, Roadkill's obsolete now, actually, but I use the standalone version that came out a long time ago and still does the job just fine. But there are a lot of, even ZBrush has introduced its own UV functionality these days. So there are a lot of different solutions to it, but remember, before these solutions came around, we were using the native programs to do the UV mapping, and some people still do. Some people are more comfortable with that, but that's fine too. And essentially, when you're doing that stuff, you're kind of just learning it as you do it. And you learn by example too. See other people's UV maps and stuff, because you're gonna have to know what parts you can like hide and stuff like that, and what parts to kind of lay out properly. What parts are gonna need more attention. So sometimes in models stretching is inevitable on the textures. So and obviously you're not gonna want a lot of stretching in the face or anything like that. That's a focal point or something. So you're going to want to spend some time figuring out how to take all the distortion out of the face and maybe put it in a place that's not going to be seen as much or something. So with the other programs coming out and stuff like that, it's making these things a lot easier. But again, before that, we had to use things like projections and stuff like that, and spherical projections, cylindrical projections more so actually. But you had to do it in the most kind of primitive way, and it was difficult to do back then. But we do have a lot of solutions now, and you have to adapt to those solutions, because the company's not gonna they're not going to wait for you to figure something out. They have deadlines like anybody else. So with that in mind, you have to kind of come in kind of knowing that you're going to need to adapt pretty fast if you want to have a chance at a good job or something like that in the future. And the last thing I actually wanted to cover was networking. Who you know, more or less, in the industry is kind of it's your key to getting into a position to where you're going to be able to have the better chance of moving forward with your career. A lot of people kind of stick to the paradigm of working hard, which is fine. We all want to work hard. That's something that you have to do anyway. But I've stuck more to the paradigm that we need to work smart more than you need to work hard. And by that I mean figuring out. Everybody knows you have to network in this industry. It's imperative. You have to network. You have to create circles of people who are going to support each other and help each other and stuff like that. But the working smart part of this is talking to the people who matter. You shouldn't probably go up to any game developer or that a friend knows or something like that and say, hey, get me a job. It's probably not going to work that way. What you need to do is you need to start talking to the people who are going to be the decision makers. You need to talk to the people who are going to actually get you involved in actively looking for work or something along that matter. Those people would be like the recruiters. There are a lot of recruiters out there, recruitment agencies and stuff, or the direct company hire recruiters. Probably one of the last things you want to do, a last resort, is throw your resume into the pool. Throw your resume into the never-ending application process of a company that you probably won't hear back from. But the thing you want to do the most is talk to the people who matter. Like I said, recruiters and those direct hire companies. A lot of companies have their own in-house recruiters and stuff. Talk to those people, because you're probably going to have a better chance at not only getting a job, but you're going to have a much better chance at getting feedback on your portfolio, which is invaluable, especially coming from an in-house recruiter or something like that. Somebody who sees this stuff every day, they're going to be able to give you valuable feedback on how to improve your portfolio, and that's also important. Also, go to expos. Expos are a great way to get out there and actually meet with the people face to face, visual representation of yourself and your work is also very helpful in that situation. So that's something to keep in mind and practice, and hopefully you'll meet that one person who says, oh, I kind of like your work, let me give you an art test or something like that. And hopefully that leads to a job. So that's a good practice to keep. So with that, I wanted to go ahead and in this video here, hopefully that advice will work out for you guys. If you would, please check out my company, www.adaptiveelite.com. We're working on a game right now. We also have a published title out called 30 Minutes or Less. That's a pretty good one. And also, if you were looking for more training, then you can check out one of my tutorials. I did a character tutorial in Indie Games Development Magazine. Now, their website's under construction right now, so keep an eye on that for the relaunch of it. But in the meantime, you can check out the PDFs to the magazine, and I forget what page it's on, but it's the MMX1985 is the name of the character. It's a giant robot, which you can also see in my portfolio. But anyway, all this stuff is at the links below. Just check out those links, and you can download those PDFs, and hopefully you'll learn something, just as you did with my ZBrush series. So obviously the coffee here hasn't kicked in, and I'm starting to flub my words a lot more. So I'll go ahead and end that here, and we'll see you guys next time here on GameStarrArts.